Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Ninja Lightning. So, the Ninja Lightning was first released in the United States back in 1993 and unfortunately was discontinued in 1994. So, looking at what we have here on GIJoe.com, we do have some nice box art. Looking at it, this really is just a rehash in some regards of the old G.I. Joe Ram cycle. But this is done for, I'm going to guess, like Snake Eyes kind of preferences, where instead of having the minigun on the side, now we have a two missile launcher system. And we also have like an explosive charge or we'll call it an ejection system. So once we get done firing the two missiles, we can just eject it off and then go on for whatever else our mission really kind of comes to, which in some regards does make some sense. Having a weapon system that, you know, can be kind of a modular thing that we can attach when we need it and detach it when we don't really does make some sense in my mind. The biggest draws to this really kind of come down to the fact that this is for the time we have like a pull cord, so we can actually kind of pull the cord, have our Joe sitting on top of the cycle, and we can have it just scream across the floor. Um, these have been popular for quite a while. But we're finally getting it for a GI Joe vehicle. But in a lot of regards, this is very much so um, a retooling of, say, like the Ram cycle, an upgraded version of it. Um, I mean, a Ram cycle does look like it's based off of a different frame, but it really is very much a remake of the Ram cycle, most particularly so that we can have that pull cord and we can just have it scream across the floor, which for the kids is going to be a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie here. Getting on down here now, of this actual mold, there's no other variations of it, but we do see that we have the Ninja Lightning in '93, so that's the one we have here. There is a Ninja Lightning cycle that kind of comes out as another retool, and I don't see any sidecar on here in 2004. And then a black version. Actually, it's got the missile launcher kind of right underneath the handles. So this is going to be a smaller missile. Um, and then it's done in 2005. So 2004, 2005, we get three more based kind of on the same frame. Still more of the kind of like the Ninja Cycle, or was it Honda, Suzuki that had done the Ninja motorcycle, which for my time frame we called them crotch rockets, uh, but kind of based off of that. And the original Ram cycle was kind of based off of that a little bit as well. But uh, you know, just take it for what it is. But in the later versions, 10 years after, 11, 12 years after this, instead of having a detachable missile launcher on the side as a sidecar, we're going to have a single missile launcher in the nose here. So um, whenever it comes up to that, I probably won't do any of these. I'll probably just leave the same stats. And very much of what you're seeing on the stats that we're going to get to is going to be the RAM, except for taking the minigun off of there and throwing on the missile launcher system. So, with that being said, let's get on over to our D6 stats and see what we have here today. All right, so looking at the Ninja Cycle, being at speed or scale, a lot of this is all the same as what we have for the Ram Cycle. So there's not much difference except for the missile launcher. So it's 7 feet long, thereabouts. We do have the crew of one, no passengers. Um, Actually, this is going to be less likely to have a passenger than the old Ram Cycle. When you look at behind uh, the driver here, um, we really don't have a spot for a second person to even just kind of sit on top of there. Cargo capacity, I left it at the 50 kilograms. Half coverage, normally I put full coverage, so however you want to work that. Its ground range, maneuverability is going to be a 2D. and the max speed is listed as 95 miles an hour. Now, I don't know how fast some of these motorcycles go, to be honest. So if you want to make this faster, by all means, make it faster. I just really don't know how fast some of these go. I think some of them can probably reach like 120. I just don't know. If you want to throw it on there, by all means, going 95 is probably fast enough. Having it governed there, um, we have a body strength of 2D, and then the weapon system. So really, we're just grabbing two missile launcher. So it's front firing, speeder scale, fire control is 1D. It's really more off of us than it is the missiles. Now, if we want to say that they're like a heat seeking missile or something like that, you might want to add another D or two. But I'm just thinking that the way this is kind of set up, it may not have the best fire control, but it is doing 7D damage. So I mean, if you're aiming towards like a wall or something, you're trying to break on through, this will work pretty well in that regard. If you're trying to do some sort of aiming thing, we don't have, this is kind of a blurry picture because it's kind of expanded here. In between the missiles, there is like a little dome for trying to acquire a target. But when you're driving a motorcycle and not having a heads up display or any other targeting apparatus, how do we really determine where it's going? I don't know how to explain that. Now, this is back in 1993, so we don't have all the extra computerization that we do today. Um, Back then, we were still having floppy disks and all that in our computers, and I fondly remember all that. You know, we don't have the AI that we have today. Um, Now, this is a science fiction in a way, a world that could be instead of the world that is. Do you want to put it in there? I'm going to leave it up to you. I really just am. Even as just a fire control of 1D had kind of a speeder vehicle, um, you know, uh, just the general speeder weapons, you might be able to acquire a decent skill at this point for firing all the different weapon systems that GIJoe has. So your gunnery might be pretty decent to be able to pull off some trick shots on this anyway. So with that being said, we'll just kind of leave it the way it is. But it does, bring into some other interesting things, just having missiles and all that stuff. I mean, the feasibility there, um, possibly scorching your leg, really, that's not going to be a happy thought here. But, we do what we can. With that, I do want to say thank you for joining me today. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.